Yeah, so as I was telling you, we have a base that we consider our homeland in the country called Nigeria presently. It's a new country. It's just about 100 years old, a little bit above 100 years. And I'm sure we have been in the land, in our portion of the Nigerian territory for at least 1,800 to 2,000 years. And I'm pretty sure again that before we settled in that land, by the way, we were one of the oldest settlers in Nigeria. A lot of groups came 800 years ago, some came 1,000 years ago, some came even 500 years ago. But in our own case, we have been there for 1,800 to 2,000 years. And I'm sure that before we settled there, we had spent a lot of time in between there and the land of Israel. You know how migrations occur. People move, settle in a place. When that place feels uncomfortable, they move on. I'm sure that's what happened to us, and I'm sure that's what happened to your group too. Because, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of Ashkenazim were formerly Sephardim. Like, they lived in southern France, Spain, Portugal, but when there was a pressure, they moved towards Britain, Germany, and they became known as Ashkenazim. It's not as if these terms were definitely in use all those years. These may be newer terms. People may just know them as the people of Israel, or in your own case, as Jews. But in our own case, we were known as Hebrews. You know the connections between the Hebrews and the Jews?
Like the ancient Israelites?
Yeah, their ancestors were Hebrews. Abraham was a Hebrew. Isaac was a Hebrew. Jacob was a Hebrew. Jacob became the Israelite.
Yeah.
Jacob became the Israelite and his children became Israelites. But at a stage, the groups that we know as Ashkenazim and Sephardim today became known as the Jews, because when they moved into exile, they moved from the territory of Judah. And the people, foreigners that knew them, said, these are the Jews, people of Judah. But in our own case, most of the migrations happened when our people were still called Hebrews. Because well into the biblical period, the people were still called Hebrews. As at the time of Moses, the people were called Hebrews. As at the time of Jonah, the people were called Hebrews. So, getting back again to the Igbo people, we kept on moving through the desert. Some we are also moving through what you would call Central Africa today, and some we are coming from the sea. But one thing was common to all these groups: wherever they stopped, they asked about where are the kindred peoples, where are their brothers, and all of them kept on congregating into that territory that we own in Nigeria, that you may call Igbo land. And we created Israel out of there. All the structures of Israel, biblical Israel, are the structures you will find there. We divided the land exactly the way Joshua divided the land of Israel. We hated kings exactly the way the ancient Israelites hated kings. The ancient Israelites were not fond of kings.
The ancient Israelites.
They didn't want kings. They only decided to imitate their neighbors, because their neighbors were always attacking them. So they decided to imitate their neighbors and have somebody to lead them, somebody that will organize them in defense. But when God, through the prophet, told them that that was wrong, they regretted immediately and said, we would prefer not to have it again, but God wanted them to experience it. We came with that culture of despising kings. But the way we despise kings showed that we had experience of such a tradition. Because you don't hate what you don't know.
Right.
We hated authoritarians. That was why the British found us a people to hate. Because when the British came, They expected everybody to see them as kings. But Igbo said, no, we don't know about this. We didn't produce a culture. Our culture did not produce kings. Why do you want us to treat you as if you are not regular human beings again? And they fell out with us. And our colonial experience was the worst. All the other groups in Africa, I don't think I'm exaggerating if I say that the Igbo experience in colonialism was the worst.
So there's a lot of discrimination against your people.
Not just discrimination, but they fought a war against our own version of the Israelite culture. They fought a war against the culture itself. The others may have suffered military attacks, but in our own case, we suffered cultural attacks. The British were protecting the religions of the others. There were some people that became Nigerians that were Muslims. The British ensured that nobody converted them out of Islam. But in our own case, the British vowed that, did everything possible for the Christians to enter our territories, suppress those that opposed them, and get the children into schools. Once the children entered the schools, they came out Christians.
Re-educated.
Yeah, they indoctrinated them, told them that whatever their fathers and mothers were doing was wrong. And these were kids. Like my own father became a Christian at the age of 9. I don't know what a kid of 9. I don't know how a kid of 9 would know that people that came with supposedly superior technology. The technology was not superior, but in some areas it was more advanced. Like they had superior guns. They came in ships because they needed to travel. We didn't need to travel. Our lifespan was not less than theirs, but they came with better armaments. They came with stronger armaments. And remember, they were imperial. They had gone around conquering a lot of parts of the world, so they had money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with that money, they set up, of course, the schools were built with our money. It was our people that were taxed, and they took our land and built the schools there. But since they were rulers, the kids were taken into those schools, and those schools were churches too. So the kids simply abandoned our own religion. And those people that were kids then eventually became the leaders of the community. So the society became essentially Christianized.
Yeah.
But the culture did not go away. Interestingly, the culture and the religion did not go away. And if I tell you the name, the Igbo word for culture and religion, you will be stunned.
Hebrew for culture and
The
taboo.
name for the Igbo culture and religion. If I tell you the name, you'll be shocked.
Well, what is it?
Omenana.
How do you say it?
Omenana.
Nana.
Repeat after me loudly.
Okay, Nana.
Yes, Omenana. That is the descriptive of the Israelite religion in the Bible. In Deuteronomy 6:1, God instructed Moses to tell the people of Israel, these are the things you will do in the land you are going into. If you translate this to Igbo, what you will have is Omenana. If you translate Omenana to English, what you will have is, these are the things you will do in the land. In other words, what Moses described the Israelite religion as is what the Igbos are calling the Igbo religion. Judaism came out of that religion. Judaism, the Samaritan religion, the Karaite religion. Are you familiar with these religions?
Which religion?
You are familiar with Judaism.
Of course.
Are you familiar with Karaism?
I have no idea.
The Karaites came out of the Jews. They were formerly a branch of Judaism.
Right.
Yeah. Have you heard of the Samaritans?
I have.
About 2,000 of them are still in Israel. These three religions came out of Omenana, because Omenana is the religion of the Israelites.
So Nana, that's kind of like the biblical version of the Hebrew religion.
I wish you could say it more loudly, because you described it perfectly.
Right.
You described it perfectly. Omenana is the Israelite religion, the biblical religion, the religion of the Israelites. Judaism developed out of it.
So where does it differ? Because you told me you keep Yom Kippur, you celebrate.
We do everything you do.
Do you know what Gemara is?
Gemara, you mean do we have the written?
So you know what Mishnah, Gemara, do you guys look at that as well? Or is that separate because it was during the diaspora.
Because we have a different experience, we began to write later than you began to write. But you'll be surprised that almost everything you find in the Gemara, I want you to come over so that the video will catch you accepting this book. Come over. I want the video to catch you accepting the book.
Video?
I'm presenting you with this book. When you go home, read this book and educate our brothers and sisters in the Jewish community about the Netinim. The Gemara talks about the Netinim. The Netinim, we are those Israelites who were like Joab, the army, King David's army commander. People, the Israelite law provided that if any Israelite is in danger of losing his life, if he runs into any of the sanctuaries in Israel, he's exempt from capture.
I think I know that. Is it just in general? Because there's the thing in Hebrew, the Ira Miklat. Do you know what the Ira HaMiklat is? It's when it's a city of refuge. When,
Yeah, it's a version of that. It's a version of that, but there is a specific provision, and the Gemara captured it.
Yeah.
Where that if Israelites enter into any of the houses of refuge, sanctuaries, that is houses of God, they become immune from pursuit. This tradition lives still today among the Igbos. They are called the people that sought that refuge. So we did not put it down in writing when you did, because your culture developed in lands where people must write.
Right.
In our own case, we retained everything orally, and by doing them, and we are still doing them today. If you want to read more about the Osu, read Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart. It captures the story of the Osu. And it developed from an earlier Semitic tradition. When Jacob tricked his brother, tricked their father, and got the blessing, where did he go? He ran to the mother's house.
Right, yeah.
When Absalom, you know who was Absalom?
Who was it?
Absalom was David's favorite son.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Absalom was David's favorite son. When he killed his older brother and the king wanted to go after him, he ran to the house of where his mother came from. Of course, read Things Fall Apart again. These traditions are still alive among us. So what am I trying to say? What you find in the Gemara, what you find in the Mishnah, these are things we are still doing. But you wrote them, we didn't write them, but we continue to do them. But because of your exilic experiences and our own exilic experiences, some of the traditions differ today. And by the way, a team among us is trying to see how we can reconcile the differences that exist today, because whether we like it or not, we must come together again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely there are differences today, minor differences, which pale into insignificance when you think of the commonalities. For example, among the Jews, it is the woman that gives the child identity.
Yeah.
That is not biblical. What is biblical is for the man to give the child identity, and that is what we retained.
For the what?
The identity flows from the man.
From the man.
Yeah. The children of Israel, the children of Jacob,
Oh, I
not the
see.
children of Leah.
So you guys say that the man, so if there's a man that's Jewish and a woman that's not, the boy is Jewish.
One automatically. If I marry a woman that is not Igbo, the child is my children with the woman are 100% Israelite, because the children of Israel, the children of Jacob, we are Israelites, even though their mother we are not Israelites. Their mothers. We retain that biblical version, but exilic experiences of exile, forced you guys to not retain that one. So you evolved, but you see, when you look at things like this, they pale into insignificance when you compare the bigger picture. When you compare them with the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that the Ashkenazim, the Sephardim, the Samaritan, the Karaite, the Igbos can prove with impeccable evidence that they all came out of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They can prove it.
Yeah, of course.
I know. We can prove it.
So I have a question.
Go ahead.
Do your people ever have they visit Israel?
I've been to Israel.
You have. Can you guys make Aliyah as well?
We can't. Officially, we can't. Israel did not open. Israel did not open the doors to us now.
They haven't recognized Igbos as part of the Jews, or
There are political considerations, and in order to maintain peace between brothers, we don't want to look at that so much. We want to simply believe that Israel forgot to do the right thing. We think that's better, because if we want to, there are things we will get into, it will further strain the relationship.
I see.
Yeah, we want to play the role that Joseph played. Joseph, when his brothers mistreated him, he still embraced them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Also,
that's the basis of our relationship with Israel. At the right time, we will sit Israel down and say, this is what you did, this is what you did, and we forgive you.
Yeah, I was wondering.
We are brothers, because
of course.
if we begin to fight within the family, enemies will rejoice.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you know this already, but a big part of Israel is Jews fighting. A big part. The Haredim, which are the more religious, fight with the secular, and it's a mess. So there's already interfighting within the Jews.
We do the same thing. But there is something that will reconcile us, Omenana and Torah. Once we leave Omenana and Torah, we have to fight. Because Omenana and Torah are the only things that can reconcile us with ourselves and with God. And we are getting there. Jews and Igbos and Samaritans and Karaites are studying together, looking at Omenana, looking at Judaism. There are Jews that have joined Omenana, and there are Igbos that have joined Judaism. Let this dialogue continue. At the end of the day, a way forward will be found, and a way forward that will respect everybody. The brothers and sisters will come sit on a table together and discuss their shared future. We have a future, whether we recognize it or not. At the end of the day, only the Igbo, the Jew will only feel completely safe with the Igbo, and the Igbo will only feel completely safe with the Jew, because they came out of one man. 99% of both may not know that, but that's why 99% of the people are not prophets. Only people with visionary intelligence will recognize what I'm saying. By the time you read this pamphlet, you will see what I'm saying. It is your culture that is here. You will call me and ask me how I'm going to come and talk to the synagogue. They have 50 million brothers. About 2 million of them are in America, doing exceptionally well. They don't know.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I knew there was a great diaspora and the lost tribes, and everybody moved everywhere. But I didn't know that it was such a big part of, the African.
Yeah, it's also, when we use terms like the lost tribes, we are simply using terms concocted by our colonialists, our process, to describe ourselves. No part of Israel, no part of the Israelites could be lost. They can only be lost to one another. For instance, the Ashkenazim and the Sephardim are lost to me, and I'm lost to them.
Right.
But they constructed it to simply become, as if it became the identity of some groups.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, while that is not the reality. The reality is that brothers simply got scattered all over the world, and they got lost to each other.
Yeah.
But as time goes on, we will begin to deconstruct. Because so far, we use a lot of terms, we use a lot of parameters that people that colonized us oppressed us to see ourselves. Yeah, that is why I told you, we don't want to emphasize, we don't want to give serious attention to the way Igbos were not treated well in Israel. We don't think it's something we should look at now, because there are more important things to do.
There's people trying to kill us.
The most important thing now is get those that are like you and me. Talking is those ones that will put right the other ones. Those other ones will eventually listen to you and I and see that we will be fools if we let things like color determine who we are. Jacob and Esau came out of one woman, but their colors were different.
I didn't know that.
The Bible described Esau as ruddy red, and did not say anything. And did not say anything about the color of Jacob, which means there was a difference. Then Jacob's animals produced goats. They were different colors from the same womb. I've looked at most people with European background here from the same woman. This one is blonde. This one has dark hair. Okay, separate them by 1,000 years.
And then it keeps...
They will change further.
No, of course. Yeah.
Automatically they will change further. Some will become very dark, some will become lighter. But because of our colonial experience, we are allowing things like this to come between us.
Yeah, I know.
And that is where you and I are different. You and I are supposed to know the better and teach others. That is just the way it is. Because the people that want to kill us, they recognize themselves as brothers.
Yeah.
And whether you are Ashkenazi, whether you are Igbo, whether you are Sephardi, they know that the three of you are one, and they are going to go after the three of you. It has happened before, throughout history.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, with time you will know more about my work. Everything you guys have experienced, including the genocides we did, we suffered them all.
So right now in Africa, in the Igbo community, is there a lot of anti-Semitism?
Nigeria is a deeply anti-Semitic country. Igbos are officially treated as second class, not treated like others. Every measure is put in place to keep them down. Yeah. In fact, we grew up hearing the term Jew man, and it was a negative term. Meanwhile, for 250 years, over 250 years, Igbos were known exclusively in the whole of Africa as the Jews of Africa. Nobody else was called Jews of Africa.
Right, yeah.
Listen again, for over 250 years, the Igbo people were exclusively called the Jews of Africa. The term African Jews is a new term. That doesn't refer to the Igbos. The Igbos were referred to as Jews of Africa. And in Nigeria, the term Jew man is a negative term. It means somebody that is not sophisticated, somebody that is backward, somebody that is bad.
And they're using that to kind of describe the Jews of Africa.
Yeah. Meanwhile, it was the Igbos that got independence for that country. It was an Igbo hero that got independence for the country. And the way the people were repaid was anti-Semitism. But because when we say anti-Semitism, we expect it to affect only somebody that has lighter skin, the Igbos themselves at a stage forget what is troubling them. They simply call it Igbophobia. And when your brothers don't recognize you, when your brothers look away from you, at a stage you begin to wonder if you are their brother.
Right, yeah.
So you find the Igbos today beginning to behave like some Jews behave towards the Igbos, beginning to question if there is any relationship between them and the Jews. Because they have learned it from Jews. They have learned from some Jews that you can ignore your brother and move on.
That's a big issue in Judaism. Even the Sephardic and Ashkenazi, at least in America, in LA, like they say, like I'm gonna be real. I did not like Sephardim for the longest time because the stuff they say towards Ashkenazi, like very offensive stuff. So yeah, no, it's all over the place. I think, you know, once we defend Israel and we get somebody else in government, like hopefully, you know, we can start accepting you guys and letting you guys in.
Yeah, and good. We start accepting each other. Like, immediately I was invited. I came here the other day, and I came to the event too.
Yeah.
Because these are my brothers and sisters. Yeah, that's the way it is. With whatever, there is nothing that is too little. Any little contribution matters. Any little contribution matters. And that is the way I look at it. Yeah.
definitely.
How has the talk been? It's been a good talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been very
Yeah.
informative.
I would like to record both of us together if you may.
What's up?
Okay, come over.
Want to come over?
So that we don't upset the.
Right here?
Closer. You see, when brothers come together, he's Jonathan. I've never seen, for a while, I've never seen such an inquisitive and intelligent young man. We need young people like this in the house of Israel. He wants to know. He wants to know about his brothers and sisters, the Igbos. He spared the time, he made the effort, and I also spared the time and made the effort, because only knowledge will save us. We cannot continue to be a people split into many branches. We need to come together again so that our God and our ancestors will be happy to us. Thank you. Shalom. You want to say something?
No, Shalom. It's been very great, and I'm really happy you talked to me. I didn't know this massive culture of Judaism in Africa existed.
Thank you. Thank you.